My neighbor flagged my work truck as an HOA eyesore and got me fined $200. While appealing it, I learned her pool was built without a permit. It just got torn down. For years, I just wanted to live in my neighborhood, mind my own business. I bought my place when I was 27, right after starting my renovation business. We do decks, patios, bathroom remodels, the occasional kitchen gut job. I run a small crew and we do solid work. Nothing flashy, but I stay busy, pay my mortgage, and take care of my property. I mow my lawn every Saturday, pressure wash my driveway twice a year. My gutters are spotless. I'm not winning any Yard of the Month awards, but I'm definitely not dragging the neighborhood down. My truck is a 2019 F-250, toolbox in the bed, my company logo proudly displayed on both doors. It's not some rusted-out wreck leaking fluid. It's clean, it runs well, and it's parked squarely in my own driveway. I pull it all the way up to my garage door so it doesn't even hang over the curb. On weekends, I wash it, too. It's my rolling billboard, after all, and I want it looking decent for clients. But none of that mattered to Gloria. Gloria lives 2 doors down, maybe in her late 50s, retired early from some county office job. And from what I could gather, her entire personality was the HOA. Seriously. She'd been on the architectural review committee for years. Every single morning, she'd walk the neighborhood with a little notepad. I wish I was making that up. She'd take photos of people's mailboxes if the paint was chipped. She once reported a family 3 houses past me for having an inflatable snowman in their yard 3 days after Christmas. 3 days. Their 6-year-old probably wasn't done enjoying it yet. Didn't matter. Gloria filed the complaint. She even reported someone for leaving a garden hose coiled in their front yard. A garden hose. Phil, who lives in the cul-de-sac, told me about that one, and even he couldn't believe it. There was a running joke that Gloria's notepad had more entries than some police precincts, but honestly, nobody thought it was all that funny, because most of us had been on the receiving end of it at some point. So, I guess it was only a matter of time before she came for me. About 2 months ago, a letter shows up in my mailbox. Official HOA letterhead, printed on nice paper, the whole deal. It said I was in violation of Section 4.7 of the Community Guidelines, storage of commercial vehicles on residential lots. Apparently, someone had filed a formal complaint that my work truck was a commercial vehicle being stored in a residential driveway, and that it was, and I'm quoting here, a visual disruption to the neighborhood aesthetic. The fine was $200. I read it twice because I genuinely thought it was a joke. My truck is in my driveway. It's not wrapped in neon. It's not blaring a horn at 3 in the morning. It's a white F-250 with a company name on the doors. You'd have to be actively looking for a problem to even notice it. Most people probably thought it was just a regular pickup truck because it basically is one. But I knew exactly who filed it. Didn't even have to guess. A week before the letter showed up, Gloria had stopped me while I was unloading some lumber. I'd just gotten back from a job site and was carrying 2X6S to my garage. She walked up from wherever she'd been patrolling and said, and I'm paraphrasing, that she'd noticed my work vehicle was becoming a fixture in the neighborhood, and she hoped I had plans to address that. I asked her what she meant. She started mumbling something about it not being in keeping with community standards. I told her it was my truck in my driveway, and there was nothing to address. She gave me this tight little smile, the kind where you can tell the person is already drafting a complaint in their head, and walked away without another word. I should have known then. That smile was basically a written warning. No way was I going to pay $200 for parking my own truck in my own driveway. No chance. So, I pulled up the HOA bylaws online. They're posted on the management company's website, and I started reading. I'd never actually read them cover to cover before. And honestly, who does? You move into an HOA, you sign the papers, you agree to keep your house looking decent, and you move on with your life. But I wanted to know exactly what Section 4.7 said so I could fight this thing properly. You see, this woman was walking around with a notepad, taking photos of chipped mailbox paint, reporting inflatable snowmen, filing complaints about garden hoses. She was running that neighborhood like a low-budget HOA version of the Gestapo. And she decided to go after me for parking my own truck in my own driveway. A truck that didn't even violate the rule she cited. The audacity is almost impressive. Almost. So, I cracked open those bylaws and what I found next. Poetic justice, I swear. This is where it gets interesting. Section 4.7 said commercial vehicles in excess of 1 ton can't be stored on residential lots overnight unless they're in an enclosed garage. My F-250 is technically a 3/4 ton truck. It's right there in the name. The F-250 designation literally means 3/4 ton. So, the rule didn't even apply to me. I could have stopped right there, written a 1-paragraph response citing the exact tonnage classification, and been done with it. But I didn't stop there. Because once you start reading HOA bylaws at 11 o'clock at night with a cup of coffee and a grudge, you don't just read the section you need. You read everything. It's like falling into a Wikipedia hole, except way less fun and way more annoying. I went through the whole document, every section, every subsection, every appendix. Took me about 2 hours. Most of it was boring stuff about fence colors and trash can placement and what percentage of your front yard has to be live vegetation. 60%, in case you were curious. But somewhere around page 40-something, I hit section 9.2, exterior structural additions and modifications. This section said that any permanent exterior structure, decks, pergolas, sheds, fences over 4 feet, and yes, in-ground or above-ground pools, must be submitted to the Architectural Review Committee for approval before the work begins. The homeowner also has to show proof that a county building permit was obtained for any structure requiring one under local code. I stopped reading, put my coffee down, and just sat there for a minute because I knew. I knew right then that Gloria had a massive in-ground pool in her backyard. I'd seen it. Everyone on the street had seen it. It went in about 2 years ago, maybe a little over a year before I moved in. Huge thing, kidney-shaped, probably 15 by 30 feet, with a stamped concrete paver deck around the entire perimeter and one of those little rock waterfall features on one end. She even had underwater LED lights that changed colors. She used to have pool parties in the summer with her book club or church group or whatever it was. You could hear the music from my backyard on Saturday afternoons. And the thing is, I'd been to one community meeting a while back, one of those quarterly HOA meetings where they serve stale cookies and talk about landscaping budgets for 45 minutes. And the board president mentioned that nobody had submitted pool applications in over 5 years. 5 years. I remembered it because one of the board members made a joke about it. Said the neighborhood must hate swimming. A few people laughed. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but now I was thinking about it real hard. If nobody had submitted a pool application in 5 years, and Gloria's pool was only about 2 years old, that pool didn't go through the committee. There was no way. I didn't jump the gun, though. I'm not that guy. I sat on it for a few days and thought about it, turned it over in my head while I was on job sites. Part of me figured, maybe she got grandfathered in somehow. Maybe she submitted paperwork I didn't know about. Maybe the board just approved it informally and it didn't show up in the meeting minutes. I didn't want to file some complaint and look like an idiot if everything was above board. But the more I thought about it, the more I remembered Gloria's personality. This is a woman who reports inflatable snowmen and garden hoses. A woman who photographs chipped paint on mailboxes. A woman who literally carries a notepad on her daily walks. If she'd gone through the proper channels for her pool, she would have made sure everyone knew about it. She would have framed the approval letter and hung it in her living room. She probably would have brought copies to the next HOA meeting. That's when I decided to look into it quietly, carefully. So, I did 2 things. First, I sent a polite email to the HOA management company. I didn't mention Gloria by name. I didn't mention any specific address. I just asked a general question. Can you tell me how many exterior structure applications, specifically pools, have been approved in the last 3 years? I worded it like I was thinking about putting in a pool myself and wanted to know the process and the typical timeline. Totally innocent question. Second, and this is the part that actually mattered, I went to the county permit office website. In North Carolina, building permits are public record. Anyone can look them up. You can search by address, by owner name, by permit type. It's all right there on the county website. So I typed in Gloria's address and hit enter. Nothing. Zero results for any pool-related permits. No plumbing permits for pool plumbing. No electrical permits for a pool pump or heater. No structural permits for an in-ground pool excavation. Nothing at all. I checked twice, checked under her name, checked under the property address formatted 3 different ways, with the street suffix, without it, abbreviated. Nothing came up. I even broadened the search to any permits at all for her address and found a couple old ones, a water heater replacement from 2018 and a roof repair from 2020. Both properly permitted. But nothing for a pool. Not a single thing. That pool, that giant kidney-shaped, waterfall-having, LED-lit pool, was built without a county building permit. And based on my HOA email, which I got a response to 3 days later confirming that no pool applications had been submitted in the past 5 years, it was also built without HOA approval. Now, look, I'm not the type of person who goes around trying to get people in trouble. I really am not. I fix people's homes for a living. I help people make their properties better. That's my whole job. But this woman went out of her way to fine me $200 for parking a truck that didn't even violate the rules she cited. She weaponized the HOA against me for no reason other than she didn't like looking at my truck from 2 doors down. And meanwhile, she's sitting on what amounts to an illegal structure in her own backyard. A structure that she never got approved. A structure that was never inspected. A structure that, as I would soon find out, wasn't even built correctly. This woman, I started calling her Permit Patty. She hired some random unlicensed dude to dig a swimming pool in her backyard like it's a Minecraft creative mode server. And nobody checks the building codes? No permits, no inspections, no licensed crew. Drainage literally flooding her neighbor's yard. And then she has the nerve to patrol the neighborhood with a notepad rating everyone else's mailbox paint? That's like Thanos snapping half the universe and then leaving a 1-star Yelp review because his waiter forgot the breadsticks. Rules for thee, but not for me? Except this time, thee had a county permit website and a real good Wi-Fi connection. So, I filed a formal inquiry with the HOA. I referenced Section 9.2 directly, quoted the relevant language, and asked whether the pool at Gloria's address had been approved by the Architectural Review Committee. I attached the response I'd gotten from the management company confirming no pool applications in 5 years. And then, separately, I filed an inquiry with the County Code Enforcement Office, asking them to verify whether a building permit had been issued for an in-ground swimming pool at that specific address. Then I waited. I didn't tell anyone what I'd done. Not Rich, not Phil, nobody. I just went to work every morning, came home, parked my truck in my driveway, and waited. The HOA responded first. Within a week, I got a letter saying that the matter had been escalated to the board for review and that the homeowner in question would be contacted. Very formal, very vague. But I could read between the lines. If the pool had been approved, they would have just told me. The county took a little longer, about 2.5 weeks, and they didn't contact me directly. But I found out what happened through the neighborhood grapevine, which in an HOA community travels faster than any internet connection you've ever had. A code enforcement officer showed up at Gloria's house on a Tuesday morning. I wasn't home when it happened. I was at a job site replacing a client's deck railing. But my buddy Rich, who lives on the opposite side of Gloria, saw the whole thing from his kitchen window. He said a county truck pulled up. 2 guys got out. One of them had a clipboard, which I'm sure Gloria appreciated, being a clipboard person herself, and they walked around the side of the house to the backyard gate. They were back there for maybe 20 minutes. Rich said he heard some kind of measuring equipment, maybe a laser level or a tape measure snapping, and saw one of them taking pictures with a phone. Rich said Gloria came outside at some point and followed them into the backyard. He couldn't hear what she was saying because of the fence, but he could see her hands waving above the fence line. He said she looked, and this is his word, flustered, which for Gloria basically means her whole world was collapsing in real time. What I pieced together from Rich, from a couple other neighbors who heard bits and pieces, and eventually from public county records, which I checked again about 3 weeks later, is this: Gloria's pool was built without a permit. No inspection was ever done on the excavation, the plumbing, the electrical hookup for the pump and heater, or the fencing, which North Carolina requires around residential pools for child safety. She'd hired some guy, not a licensed contractor, not a bonded company, just some guy who knew a guy who had an excavator to dig the hole and install the shell. They'd skipped literally every step of the permitting process. Every single one. The county didn't mess around. They flagged the pool as an unpermitted structure. That triggers a whole review process, but the short version is Gloria was given a choice. She could either apply for retroactive permits, which would mean hiring a licensed structural engineer to come out and inspect every aspect of the pool, bringing everything up to current code, including the fencing, the drainage, the electrical grounding, the setback distances from property lines, and paying some hefty late filing fees on top of all that. Or she could have the pool removed. The problem? The pool wasn't built to code in the first place. Not even close. The electrical wasn't grounded properly, which is a serious safety issue with a pool full of water sitting right there. The drainage was routed in the wrong direction and was actually pushing water toward Rich's property, which explained why his yard on that side had been soggy and borderline swampy for 2 years. And the safety fencing around the pool didn't meet the 4-foot height requirement. An engineer she consulted told her it would cost somewhere north of $35,000 to bring the whole installation into compliance with current code, maybe more, depending on what they found once they started opening things up. Gloria chose demolition. Can't say I blame her on the math. From what I heard, the pool removal cost her about $15,000. They had to drain the water, break up the concrete and fiberglass shell with heavy equipment, haul away all the debris in multiple truckloads, fill in the hole with clean-filled dirt, compact it, regrade the entire yard so it drained properly, and disconnect all the plumbing and electrical lines that ran from the house to the pool equipment. It took a crew about a week, maybe a little more. I watched some of it from my backyard, not going to lie. I was grilling chicken one afternoon, just standing there flipping drumsticks, and I could see the excavator arms swinging back and forth over Gloria's fence, pulling chunks of concrete out of the ground. There's something deeply satisfying about watching heavy equipment tear apart a pool that only exists because someone thought the rules applied to everyone except them. I don't know, maybe that makes me petty. I'm okay with that. And here's the other thing. The HOA hit her, too. Separate from the county stuff entirely. The board reviewed her property records and determined the pool was an unauthorized exterior modification under Section 9.2 of the bylaws. That carries a base fine of $500 plus $50 per day for every day the unapproved structure remains on the property. They backdated the daily fines 3 months from the date of my original complaint. They technically could have gone back to when the pool was first installed, over 2 years, but they capped it at 3 months, which I think was actually generous. Even with the pool being demolished within a few weeks of the county condemnation, she racked up over $2,000 in HOA fines on top of the $15,000 in demolition costs. Meanwhile, my $200 fine? I sent my written response citing the actual weight classification of my F-250 and pointing out that Section 4.7's 1-ton threshold didn't apply to a 3/4 ton pickup. The fine was withdrawn within a week. No hearing needed, no appeal process, just gone. I got a one-line email from the management company that said, "The violation has been reviewed and the fine has been rescinded." That was it. 6 sentences and I was done. Let me zoom out for a second, because the math here is absolutely wild. Gloria filed a complaint to fine me $200 for a truck that didn't even violate the rule she cited. That bogus fine made me read the bylaws. Reading the bylaws led me to Section 9.2. Section 9.2 made me think about her pool. Thinking about the pool led me to the county permit database. The permit database showed nothing. Nothing meant code enforcement. Code enforcement meant condemnation. Condemnation meant $15,000 in demolition, plus $2,000 in HOA fines, plus getting yanked off the committee she'd been running. For 6 years. Grand total? Roughly $17,000 and her entire reputation. All because she didn't like looking at an F-250. That's not just karma, folks. That's karma with a turbocharger. Oh, and Gloria was removed from the Architectural Review Committee. I don't know if she was asked to step down or if the board pulled her, but either way, she's not on it anymore. Which is honestly the funniest part of all of this. The woman whose entire identity was enforcing neighborhood rules got caught breaking the biggest one. The person with the notepad had the biggest violation on the whole street. She hasn't spoken to me since. Won't even make eye contact. If she's outside watering what's left of her yard when I pull into my driveway, she turns around and goes inside, which, and I mean this sincerely, is totally fine with me. I didn't do this to embarrass her or ruin her life. I did it because she came after me first over nothing. And when I went looking for the facts to defend myself, the facts happened to not be on her side. Rich told me Gloria tried to spin it to some of the other neighbors. She told Brenda, one of her walking buddies, that I was vindictive and that I went digging for dirt on her as payback. And yeah, you know what? She's half right. I did go looking because she fined me for something that wasn't even a violation. If you throw a rock at someone's window, don't be shocked when they look at your house and notice your roof is falling off. My rock was a county permit search. Hers was a bogus complaint about a truck. The weeks after the demolition were weird. The neighborhood had this strange energy, like after something big goes down at a family reunion and everyone's pretending they didn't see it, but they definitely saw it and they're all texting each other about it under the table. A couple of the neighbors who I'd describe as Gloria's inner circle, the women she walked with in the mornings, the ones who came to her pool parties, they gave me the cold shoulder for a bit. One of them, Brenda, actually came to my front door one evening and told me she thought what I did was excessive. I told her respectfully that I didn't build an unpermitted pool in my backyard and that all I did was ask a question through the proper channels. She sort of stood there for a second, opened her mouth like she was going to say something else, and then just turned around and left. She didn't have a response for that, because there isn't one. But for every Brenda, there were 3 or 4 neighbors who came up to me quietly at the mailbox, in the driveway, at the neighborhood cookout and basically said, "Thank you." One guy, Phil, from the cul-de-sac at the end of our street, told me Gloria had reported him twice. Once for having a portable basketball hoop that was too close to the street, and once for his garage door being left open for an extended period on a Saturday afternoon while he was organizing his tools. His garage door open on a weekend. That was apparently a violation. Phil shook my hand and said, "I've been wanting to look into her stuff for 2 years, but never had the guts." And, honestly, I get it. Nobody wants to be the person who starts a fight in a neighborhood. You have to live there. You have to see these people at the mailbox. You have to wave when you're both mowing your lawns on Saturday. It's not like a job where you can quit and walk away. This is where you sleep at night. But the thing is, I didn't start the fight. Gloria started it. I just finished it. The HOA board actually made some changes after everything shook out. They brought in a new policy that says any committee complaint has to be reviewed and approved by at least 2 board members before a fine letter goes out to a homeowner. Which, and I cannot stress this enough, should have been the policy the entire time. The fact that one person sitting on a committee could trigger a $200 fine with no oversight or review is insane. That's how you get people like Gloria running the show. But that's HOA for you. The system works until it doesn't. And it usually stops working the second someone with too much free time and a notepad gets a seat at the table. I also heard, and this part 1 can't personally confirm, so take it with a grain of salt, that Gloria got hit with an additional fine for the drainage issue. Rich had been complaining about his soggy yard on that side for close to 2 years. And when the county inspection proved that Gloria's pool drainage was the direct cause, the HOA flagged it as a property damage situation. I don't know the dollar amount on that one, but Rich seemed pretty satisfied when I talked to him about it, so I'm guessing it wasn't cheap. Can we just talk about the fact that Permit Patty was on the Architectural Review Committee, the committee that approves exterior structures, while she had an unapproved, unpermitted swimming pool in her own backyard? That's like being a speed trap cop who drives 90 on the way to work. She was out here judging everyone's fence height and shed placement and garage door habits, while her own pool was basically a rogue operation with bad wiring and illegal drainage. I am honestly convinced that some people become HOA enforcers specifically because they have violations themselves, like a form of camouflage. Nobody will suspect the woman holding the rule book. Well, somebody suspected, and that somebody had a county permit search and a $200 reason to use it. Final update. It's been about a month and a half since the pool came out. Gloria's backyard is just a big rectangle of dirt and fresh sod now. Rich told me she hired a landscaping company to come out and try to make it look normal again. Plant some bushes, lay fresh grass seed. But you can still tell where the pool was because the sod hasn't fully taken and the ground is slightly lower in that spot, like a shallow depression. It's like a scar back there. A very expensive, very visible scar. The HOA board sent out a community-wide email reminding everyone about the exterior modification and approval process. They didn't mention Gloria by name. They didn't need to. Everyone knew exactly what prompted it. The email basically said, if you have any structures on your property that weren't submitted to the committee for approval, now would be a really good time to get that sorted out on your own before someone else notices. Apparently, 2 other homeowners came forward with unapproved storage sheds within that first week. I'm guessing they watched what happened to Gloria and decided it was better to deal with it proactively than to wait for the next guy with a grudge and an internet connection. I actually got a new client out of the whole thing. One of my neighbors, Dave, from 3 streets over, saw my truck in the driveway, the very truck that Gloria hated so much, and flagged me down one afternoon to ask if I could give him a quote on rebuilding his back deck. He'd been putting the project off for over a year. I went over, looked at it, gave him a fair price, and he signed on the spot. We finished the job last week, pulled all the proper permits from the county, had it inspected at every stage, passed everything on the first try, because that's how you're supposed to do it. That's how it works when you actually follow the rules you're supposedly enforcing. Look, I want to be clear about something. I don't have any personal vendetta against Gloria. Before all of this, I barely interacted with her beyond the occasional wave. I'm not the kind of guy who goes looking for problems. I go to work, I come home, I grill on weekends, I watch football on Sundays. That's pretty much my whole deal. But I'm also not the kind of guy who rolls over when someone comes at me sideways, especially when the thing they're coming at me for isn't even a real violation. My buddy at work, Greg, keeps calling me the HOA Slayer, which I definitely did not ask for, but apparently can't stop. He thinks I should run for the board. I told him I'd rather eat gravel for breakfast. I have zero interest in being on any HOA board or committee. I just wanted to park my truck in peace. Mission accomplished. A couple people have asked if I'm worried about retaliation from Gloria. Not even a little. She's off the committee. The board's watching her. And half the street is quietly grateful she got knocked down a few pegs. And everything I did was completely above board. I didn't sneak into her yard. I didn't make up accusations. I asked questions through official channels. The same official channels she used to come after me. And the answers spoke for themselves. The $200 fine being rescinded was the actual win for me. That was the thing I cared about. Everything else, the pool, the demolition, the fines, the committee removal, that was all just consequences. Gloria's consequences, not mine. She set every single one of those dominoes up herself. All I did was flick the first one. Gloria, from what I hear, is keeping a very low profile these days. No more morning patrol with the notepad. No more drive-by photography of people's mailboxes. No more pool parties, obviously. Do I almost feel bad? No. Actually, I don't. I was going to say I almost feel bad, but I really don't. She brought every bit of this on herself. Every single dollar, every single fine, every single truckload of concrete that used to be her pool. My truck's still in the driveway. Same spot, same logo. And every time I pull in and glance over toward Gloria's backyard, I can see that patch of new grass that hasn't quite grown in yet. And I think about how a $200 fine over a parked truck turned into a $17,000 demolition project and the end of a 6-year HOA career. All she had to do was mind her own business. Anyway, I've been thinking about getting a bigger truck. Maybe a dually, one of those big F350s. Just for the company, you know? Purely a business decision. Got nothing to do with anything else. Nothing personal at all. So, what do you think? Did I go too far, or did Gloria get exactly what she deserved? Have you ever had a neighbor like this? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I genuinely want to know.